I am 27 years old and developing my career faster than I ever imagined. However, I cannot deny that my love life has been non-existent and is unlikely to change soon, as my job requires flexibility, including the possibility of moving abroad. The current dating landscape, dominated by apps, is not very welcoming. I am curious about those who have made the same choice in the past. Do you regret it? Or do you believe that self-development is indeed the top priority? Story 1. Not really. By most metrics, I guess you could say I have a successful career. But when there's no one to share the spoils of that success, you end up feeling unfulfilled. Sure, I have money and I can use it for enjoyable things, but what would be more enjoyable is to share all that with someone who appreciates me for who I am. Keep in mind, this could be a grass is greener perspective. I'm sure there are men out there who wish they had focused more on their careers than on finding a partner. But lately, I find myself wishing I had put more effort into the latter. Story 2. My opinion is that you eventually have to decide that enough is enough. You are making enough money or have built a strong career to start living. Money and success can bring happiness to someone who came from little, but I believe it won't be enjoyable to watch life pass you by while sitting in an executive office with your wealth. Story 3. Focusing on my education and career in my early and mid-20s helped enhance my dating life in my late 20s and throughout my 30s. Story 4. The older you get, the less a career starts to matter. It is not about whether you had a successful career or not. On their deathbed, no one says, "I wished I had a better career." People around the age of 40 often begin to regret not taking more action in their love lives, which ultimately affects their families. Story 5. No, it is not. I am 40, with a very successful career and the financial security that comes with it. I have accomplished and continue to accomplish my career goals, though that has happened at the expense of having a meaningful life. I finish my workday and go to my house, as that only becomes a home when family is waiting for you. Now that I am stepping into the second half of my life, I do regret not focusing on relationships and building human connections. I also find myself regretting not having children to share the good life I have built for myself. If I had to do it again, I would focus on relationships and starting a family. Story 6. I believe I am doing well in my career, as I have a job that pays relatively well, and I enjoy it. However, in terms of dating, I have not had any success. I was more inclined to seek out women in my 20s, but I didn't make any progress. Now in my 30s, I have given up on dating and am focusing on where I can take my career next. Story 7. It is not worth it. I'm nearly 30 and have never focused on relationships. Although I am introverted and have social anxiety, which naturally leads me to avoid them. I went to school to become an engineer, earned a degree, and worked in the field. I am burned out and do not want to advance. I have little to no support from my employer to move up. I am still paying off loans, and I have no social life. All my friends live in different places, and I live at home but am finally getting to a point where I can afford to rent. I invested everything in the hope of making money and believed everything else would work itself out, but it doesn't work that way. I struggle with networking and now have little desire to continue in this field. I am probably even worse at networking for a relationship. At least I have time on my side. I never wanted kids, and as a male, I don't have a ticking timeline adding pressure to the situation. Story 8. I worked at a nursing home, and none of the residents said that their careers were the most memorable part of their lives. They all mentioned their romantic partners and children. Story 9. I had a very fulfilling love life in my teens and 20s, and I was not focused on my salary. I have many friends, great memories, a wonderful wife, and a son, but I am behind in my career and savings. I'm 37 now, and while my career is in a good place, I have much work to do for retirement, if that is at all possible. Story 10. I accidentally didn't have much of a love life in my 20s. Ironically, my wife has been instrumental in making me the best version of myself. I wish I had met her sooner. Story 11. While I focused on my career, it wasn't completely at the expense of my love life or developing other relationships, but they were often secondary. Here are a few observations. Developing yourself usually results in a more attractive persona. Focusing on self-improvement is always positive. Dating as a man with financial stability in your 30s is a completely different experience compared to your 20s when finances are lacking. Now, in my late 30s, some of my friends who married early are now experiencing divorce. You grow significantly throughout your 30s. Holding off on a relationship until you understand who you are is not a negative choice. Story 12. I went on dates reluctantly throughout my 20s and mostly focused on my career. I knew I wasn't really ready to date because I wasn't satisfied with my other goals. Now, in my early 30s, things are pretty good. I am very content with how everything turned out. I don't have the same stresses that many of my peers experience. Story 13. A successful career leads to a better dating life in the future. While it's important not to wait too long, focusing on your career while you are young is always beneficial. Story 14. I married at 24. Then I moved to Asia for a few years with my wife and started a family. I considered waiting until I was around 30 before getting married. Here are the reasons I didn't. 1. Children don't care how much money you have. In many ways, you do them a disservice by making life too easy for them. I think it is good for a couple to grow together while establishing themselves. You have to find the right person for the job. I did not want to be tied to children in my 50s when I have time and money to travel the world with my wife. I wanted to be young enough to enjoy grandchildren. I don't think it is a bad thing to wait. One concern I have is that you may encounter more women around the 30-year-old mark trying to secure a commitment and start a family before it is too late. Therefore, they may be more interested in what you can provide than in being with you for who you are. There is no right or wrong here. Just understand the ramifications of what you plan to do. Story 15. Career is overrated. Money is nice and makes your life easier, but it does little to ease the growing solitude and loneliness that comes with getting older if you don't constantly surround yourself with new people. This is especially important if your job requires you to travel frequently. I'm happily married, but I worked hard between the ages of 26 and 35, saving money and doing things that I thought were crucial to improving our situation. Those efforts did help, but the amount of time I sacrificed with my wife was staggering, and I wish I could have it back now. I quit that job a few years ago and never looked back. I wish I had done it sooner. Find a job that supports the lifestyle you truly want to live, not the one you convince yourself you want because the benefits and pay seem to justify the sacrifices. That's the advice I would give my younger self if I could. Story 16. I suggest trying both approaches for now and developing your skills in both areas. Denying yourself years of experience with women is a waste, in my opinion. Story 17. Not really. I wish I had put more effort into my relationships while I was still in school. It is incredibly hard to find someone in my late 20s when I have no dating or relationship experience. Story 18. 63% of single men between the ages of 19 and 40 are not looking for relationships. Women may take advantage of your resources. Just avoid cohabitation and enjoy yourself. Story 19. This is a topic that varies depending on one's life experiences. Personally, I have just turned 24 and have encountered the complexities of long-term relationships and dating since I was 18, the freshman year of college. I developed the skills to attract a partner easily. Now, sitting here financially challenged, I really wish I had spent more time focusing on my studies and considering different career choices. Whenever someone shares their romantic challenges with me, I often reflect, wow, I can't even imagine focusing on dating, as I truly don't feel any desire for that in my current life. And I see them as being distracted by trivial matters when there are financial opportunities to pursue. Try being financially struggling for a while and then see where your priorities shift. Money doesn't fix everything, but it certainly makes life easier. Story 20. I never focused on my career, mainly because I prefer to spend as little time at the office as possible and have no desire to be in any sort of management. I'm happy in my role as a software engineer who can simply code and listen to music all day. I dated and traveled throughout my 20s, 30s, 40s, and now 50s, married in my 40s. I have a lot of friends who worked hard on their careers, but they don't seem to enjoy life that much since they are constantly working. That's not really my idea of a good time. I always remember the finance guy who worked for the company I was with in my 20s. He worked day and night, including weekends, and then he collapsed in the office one Friday night. His body wasn't discovered until the following Tuesday. Monday was a holiday. In less than a week, the company had someone new working in his office. Story 21. No regrets whatsoever. I would rather look back and regret that I worked hard than regret focusing on relationships and potentially resenting my partner. Story 22. I had a very busy love life in my 20s. Not many relationships were involved, mostly friends with benefits and random encounters. At 27, I met the girl who is currently my wife. The connection I have with her eclipses all of the fun from back then. What I'm trying to say is that you've made the right choice and you're not too late. The right one will come, and you'll know when she arrives. Good luck. Story 23. It is entirely worth it. Focusing all your time and energy on building wealth while discovering yourself and your place in the world is incredible. Maintaining relationships can be exhausting. Story 24. It doesn't have to be an either-or situation. You can have both. If you meet the right person, they will be your biggest cheerleader in advancing yourself in whatever you do. Considering that people are becoming lonelier than ever, I wouldn't shut out relationships of any kind for jobs that do not care about you. Life is a journey, not a destination. No amount of money can buy time. However, to each their own. No one's life journey is the same. Whatever you and others decide, I hope it works out and you're happy. Story 25. I focused heavily on my career, but I also made an effort to find someone special. Although nothing worked out, I can't blame myself. I gave it my best shot. My life is quite comfortable. Would my life have been better with children and a partner? Life can always be improved. Enjoy the journey in whatever way suits you. Story 26. Definitely worth it. Now that I'm in my 30s with money, fitness, and social skills, attractive young women in their early 20s and late teens often show interest in me. However, I've become so comfortable doing my own thing that I find the disruption to my peace isn't worth the fun. It's a double-edged sword. If you stay on the right path, focusing on your finances, fitness, and social skills in your 20s, you can attract high-quality partners in your 30s and beyond. However, you might also discover it can be more trouble than it's worth at that stage. Story 27. Personally, it is worthwhile for the ability to support family and have savings for emergencies. Story 28. I will be 40 next year, and I still cannot answer that question successfully. I have financial security now that will help me in later years if I die alone, but I did not have a linear career path. I am not sure if I would have been able to achieve my current success if my focus had been on dating and relationships, which likely would have taken a toll because I live in a high cost of living area, Toronto, and it is only getting worse. Story 29. Not at all. I reached the peak of my career at 30 after working consistently since I completed my university studies. Then COVID-19 came and disrupted my career. I had to start over from the bottom of a completely different field. Even though it is going well and I am already earning more than I ever did in my 20s, I feel lonelier than I have ever been. Careers come and go, and so does love, I suppose. In hindsight, I have little to show for all those years of struggle, but instead, I carry many regrets from the relationships I did not invest the time and energy into, which both they and I deserved. Story 30. Generally speaking, as long as you work on your social skills by putting yourself in social situations that you may have considered uncomfortable, you will have more success in later years. It is both a gift and a challenge, but men tend to reach their peak in attractiveness later than women. I digressed a bit, but that's the essence of it. Story 31. I believe it is worth it. I have had an active love life in my 20s, and if I could go back, I would have focused strictly on my well-being and future. However, I had untreated borderline personality disorder and abandonment issues, so my loneliness was overwhelming. This vulnerability attracted dangerous individuals. When I started getting beaten at 27 by my 21-year-old girlfriend, who misled me in the beginning, I drastically lowered my standards because at least I wasn't alone. I eventually broke up with her and got referred to an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder specialist who put me on Effexor, which changed my life. I found a loving, mature, and respectful relationship. My emotions are now in my control. I'm turning 28 next month, so if we erase all the toxic relationships I had before, I feel like even working on my mental health and learning to love myself and be confident would have been a better alternative to getting into relationships, let alone setting myself up for a successful future. My best friend just graduated as a mechanical engineer, and I see how hard people like you work. That alone should reassure you that you are doing the right thing. Not looking for love is often the best way to find it. I wasn't looking for it, and it just came to me. The right girl will come along, even while you're still in school. You'll know it's the right girl because she will understand how busy you are working on your degree and will be able to balance that with compromise and understanding. You will find the one, and trust me, it is going to be one of the brightest days of your life. But finish that degree. I believe in you. Story 32. I want to say no, but I would be lying if I said that financial security and homeownership are not worth it. Story 33. You need to gain some experience quickly. If you think you can just enter the dating scene at 33 years old and attract women as if you've been dating since high school, you are mistaken. You will face significant challenges, and if you are perceived as lacking confidence, women will sense it from a distance and take advantage of you. You may become the ideal partner for someone who spent her 20s casually dating and now seeks to settle down with a man. The more money you have with minimal experience, the larger target you will become. Story 34. Unless you are one of the rare few who have an occupation that genuinely helps people, such as doctors or scientists, I will never understand individuals who sacrifice relationships for careers. You may have one of those jobs, but you may not. You will likely one day regret spending the best years of your life on a job and not developing those relationships. Story 35. I sacrificed my 20s and early 30s pursuing a doctorate in my field of dentistry. I have never found it difficult to attract a female partner. I'm not tall or ruggedly handsome, but I dress well, have a good sense of humor, and take care of my appearance. If you do the same, you will likely attract partners at your level or higher. If you can shower, shave, and brush your teeth, you are already at a baseline attractiveness of 7 and can attract women at that level or higher. I know someone who is not very attractive and is quite short, yet his partner is nearly a model and earns twice his salary. Can be done. To answer your question directly, it is better to build something with someone, so sacrifices are necessary, but you don't need to choose one sacrifice over another. Sacrifice a little for this and a little for that, and you can achieve a balance. Story 36. I am letting go of my career and degree because they do not fulfill me, and I am seeking a more meaningful life in a lower tax bracket, along with someone to come home to at night. That was my experience throughout my 20s. Now in my mid-30s, I am even happier having found someone who appreciates me for who I am, not for my financial status. Additionally, she earns significantly more than I do, as she focused on her career in her 20s. Story 37. I didn't have much of a love life in my 20s, nor do I now in my early 30s, even though that's what I was chasing. Well, apart from a relatively short relationship that resulted in a heartbreaking divorce. I suppose life is about getting used to not getting what you want and still finding joy in it. I might have had more luck developing my career instead, which I should focus on now, and leave the dream of a relationship and family aside, since I already find some of that fulfillment with my friends who are very much like family. If love happens, it happens. I'm open to it, but I've stopped searching. Story 38. I will tell you that if you have no money, all women will leave. It is better to have money than to focus solely on relationships. People are often attracted to wealth, but money can be fleeting. If you chase after superficial relationships, be smart and remember that you can always build a fulfilling love life if you are in shape and present yourself well. If you are struggling financially, many may not be interested in you if you work in a low-paying job. Story 39. I focused on my career and finances initially, purchasing a condominium at 28 as my final foundational piece. After that, I started concentrating on dating. Now, at 36, I am married and expecting my first child. While it wasn't a continuous stream of dates, I was selective and had a clear understanding of what I wanted in a partner. Story 40. I was a management consultant for 16 years and traveled extensively. Many colleagues had families, often in traditional relationships, marrying women they had been dating since high school or met in college. There were also many who were perpetually single. In that industry, it is challenging for your job not to become your life. People focused on earning a living, while their partners managed the home and children. I didn't seriously date until I left consulting for a more stable position. About 2 years in, I accepted a transfer opportunity. She planned to join me after finishing graduate school. The long-distance relationship made me realize that my life was more manageable on my own. My job had already interfered with many events and weekends when I was supposed to see her, which added unnecessary stress as she was often upset with me. Eventually, I decided to break up with her. Story 41. I went to school for myself. I graduated and now work as an engineer at a large company. Women don't seem to care at all. They never talk to me, and I still feel practically invisible. Not much has changed since I was a broke college student living with my parents. It's been isolating since I have to sit in a cubicle all day. Sure, I talk to some people sometimes at work, but they are usually older men, and our conversations are almost always work-related. If this has helped anyone's dating life, I would love to know how. Story 42. It worked out for me. There was little to no real dating until I turned 26. A fairly intense post-program period followed by COVID-19 didn't do many favors. I did well in my full-time job after university, and I am financially better off than 90 to 95% of my peers. I started dating at 26, I am currently 27, and got a long-term girlfriend later that year. Overall, I would say it was worth it as I experienced the best of both worlds. Story 43. It worked out for me. I am 37 now, but I met my wife when I was 28. We now have a daughter, and I earn a six-figure income. My daughter makes everything worthwhile. Story 44. Don't worry. If you know how to treat a woman and are ready to commit, you have a good chance. Any lady would appreciate that. Story 45. I failed to achieve both goals. How does someone who is almost 30 transition from having no career to something decent, especially after only graduating high school and having no special skills? If I am going to be single, I would prefer to have money and no debt. Story 46. I never really understood the people who say, I'm focusing on my career, so I can't date. I have a successful career, and so do all my friends in their mid to late 20s. We have all dated and been in relationships without any issues. My ex-girlfriend was a doctor, one of the most demanding professions, and she had no problem dating, nor did any of her doctor friends. She would work or be busy with other commitments for about 70 to 80 hours a week, yet we still found time to be together because it was a priority for both of us. It might be hard to hear, but my honest opinion is that people who say, I'm focusing on my career, I don't have time to date, are just making excuses. Dating can be challenging, and some individuals struggle to put themselves out there. But I guarantee that everyone, no matter how hard they work, can find time to date if they truly want to. Story 47. The dating pool is wide open for a good man with a solid foundation, including a stable job and living situation. You can easily date women in their 20s and 30s if you have the time and resources provided by a solid career. Just don't postpone dating for fun for too long. Story 48. False dichotomy. It's not that hard to do both. I worked 100-hour weeks in my 20s and dated quite a bit. It helps to date women who also have careers. They understand when you have to work until 1 a.m. on a Friday. Story 49. I am still unable to find the right balance. It has cost me numerous relationships and opportunities. Story 50. It's just something we say to let lovers go. Of course, you can have the most demanding job and still have a happy love life. She must be worth it, though. Story 51. Develop yourself financially, and you will not be alone. What you need to do is approach women in real life instead of relying on dating applications. Men who are not attractive and wait on dating apps are like being unemployed and hoping a job calls you without having submitted your resume. Story 52. It will be worth it if you get yourself to a point where you enjoy your lifestyle and see yourself enjoying it for several years. Many career-focused individuals do not consider lifestyle. They are fixated on income and job achievements. Or worse, they may be using work as an excuse to avoid dating. In regard to your job, if this is not the lifestyle in which you can or want to date, then begin to envision what that lifestyle looks like and how you can achieve it. A compatible relationship will add value over time, but it does require a commitment. The longer you wait to gain experience, the more challenging it is likely to become. Story 53. If by love life you mean settling down, I didn't marry until I was 39. I moved across the country and focused on work and having fun. I did date, but not very seriously until my mid-30s. I had a great time. I could go out with friends whenever I wanted and make big decisions, like moving, without worrying about others. My career skyrocketed from age 28 to now. If I had married in my 20s, I would probably still be where I grew up and much poorer. I was never the family type, so everyone is different. I absolutely don't regret my choices and know I would have regretted marrying earlier. Story 54. In my personal experience, I had my love life before my 20s. I started my career and continued with her, who supported me in everything I needed, even moving apart for some time. Today, after having 2 children, it is still worth it. If someone loves you, they should not hinder your dreams or goals but support each other. Story 55. Absolutely, it's worth it. If you invest in yourself as a person, by the age of 30, you will appreciate your solitude and yourself more than any person or partner. Relationships and dating can become more of a hobby than a necessity. There are some individuals who lack social skills and merely work and sulk, while others enjoy their self-development and have fun along the journey. Imagine having financial stability, feeling comfortable, and realizing you are stress-free. You can then go out, enjoy yourself, and meet someone who brings joy to your life without being a requirement, relieving the pressure. Story 56. I think so. I'm 25 and will be 26 next month. I recently reached the income level I had set as a career goal to live a comfortable life. Although inflation has shifted the goalposts somewhat, I am still happy. Now, I am at a stage where my schedule is manageable, and I earn enough money to not worry about most purchases and expenses while still being able to save. Story 57. It was worth it to prepare for a better future, but I ensured I didn't spend all my youth focused solely on that. I didn't chase girls while in school and wasn't concerned about finding a girlfriend immediately after graduation. I found my wife in my mid-20s, and now I enjoy the best of both worlds. A good income and the freedom to go out, have fun experiences, dine out, and play golf, all with my wife. Story 58. Most women want a man with a successful career. The most important thing isn't love, but knowing what you want in a partner. Story 59. Yes, it will help you find a better partner in the future. Once your career is secure, one of your worries in life will diminish, allowing you more depth to consider relationships. Story 60. I tried to have a love life but failed. I got a job and now I have my own house, but I am alone. Feels like a Pyrrhic victory, I guess. Story 61. I am 31. This is a general observation, but everyone I know who focused on their career or making money in their 20s tends to be quite unbearable. It truly does not mean anything unless you share it with a partner or the larger community. Look at all this money I have really only impresses other people with the same mindset, in my opinion. Story 62. I made the opposite choice. I had a high-flying career but decided to scale back significantly to focus on a relationship, spend more time with friends, and enjoy life outside of work. It was by far the greatest decision I've ever made. Could I be earning more? Of course. However, I wouldn't trade any amount of money for the time I enjoyed in my 20s. You get one amazing, short life in this vast universe. You're young only once, and you never know what the future holds. Don't trade it all away hoping for quicker success if it comes at the cost of what makes life worth living. Story 63. I am 42 years old and have a friends with benefits situation. I have never really had a solid relationship, but I have a strong career and am working on my own company as a side project. I have a good life. I have traveled, gained a lot of experiences, and have money in the bank. I am happy, though sometimes I feel down because I have no one to share it with. However, seeing how most of my friends are divorced and pay a lot for child support, I realize I have it really good. I have no regrets. It is worth it. Story 64. I believe your 20s should be for self-discovery and finding your direction in life. It is important to focus on your career since you need money to thrive in society, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's why you should strive for a work-life balance. Personally, I decided to prioritize life experiences over traditional pathways like college. I had a long-term relationship for which I am grateful, but that is now over. I don't view that time as wasted. My mental state is vastly improved compared to my 20s. I now know what I want out of life, what I seek in a partner, what I need to work on personally, and what career path will help me maintain a work-life balance. I have taken the time to assess who I am, the world, society, and the economy, so now I feel ready to truly start my life. Better late than never, I suppose. Story 65. Joke's on you, I didn't have a successful relationship or a career during my 20s. However, I got a good job that allowed me to afford my own place when I was around 26. After 4 years of living on my own, I found love. I don't believe it's critical to find a long-term partner in your 20s. This decade is for figuring out how to be an adult, not how to cohabitate with another inexperienced adult. Learn to be happy, successful, and interesting on your own, and you'll attract someone compatible to your lifestyle. Story 66. You should develop both your career and your connections and community early on. It can be difficult to be on either side, but a supportive partner early on will enhance your career rather than detract from it. Additionally, the right career will improve your partner's life without necessarily taking away from it. I am not saying that it is all easy and that sacrifices are not required, but we need both, and I would argue that we need slightly more connection with people than we need career success. Story 67. They will likely say yes because that choice is now central to their sense of identity, and people often dislike admitting they made a mistake. Story 68. Well, I had my love life, but it ended when I turned 29. So yes, I'm back to being single again, and dating apps are not great. It's hard to meet people as you grow older. Story 69. I am really close to my family. I have never been into the whole relationship thing, but I do want to start a family of my own one day. I am coming to terms with the fact that I am probably some degree of asexual or aromantic, which makes that unlikely to happen. From my perspective, being in a similar position, roughly the same age and climbing the corporate ladder faster than I should be, the best advice I can give is to cultivate strong bonds with the people you still have in your life, such as friends and family. This approach has worked for me so far, and I am pretty happy with where I am. Story 70. Money is important, and while you may encounter individuals with ulterior motives, there are genuine and wonderful people out there. Story 71. It depends on the person. My goal is to have a family. It's better to start a family a bit younger than not, as the main purpose of working and being engaged in life is to build a family and create a legacy. A career can enhance your attractiveness, but lack of experience can diminish it significantly. Dating early on requires a relatively small investment of money and time. Story 72. I'm 29 and have worked hard in my 20s for my career. It has paid off financially, but I don't find much fulfillment in my work and feel that the only thing that will bring me that fulfillment is having a partner and raising a family, or at least sharing experiences with someone. Unfortunately, I don't know how to date or talk to women anymore. I don't understand how to date, because I've spent so much time focusing on my job rather than on personal relationships. As a result, I feel lost and unsure of what to do, so I keep concentrating more on my job and sinking deeper into loneliness. Story 73. It was not long ago that things were going well. However, my employers decided to take advantage of me during the past year and a half, and now I have to search for a job in a challenging job market. Story 74. I am grateful for my career and the lifestyle it provides, but I feel that I wasted my 20s working. I didn't travel, party, or take trips with friends. Now that I am in my late 30s, I don't have many memories that are not directly related to work, and I often feel like the least interesting person in the room. Story 75. I'm 30 now. I have an amazing career and just bought a home, but I have no one to share it with. If I could go back, I would do things very differently. However, the grass is always greener on the other side, so I don't know. I'm happy with my life, my job, and my home, but I am ready to share it with someone, and that someone is hard to find. Story 76. During different periods of your life, your immediate priorities can change. However, over the entire course of life, I believe relationships are the most important aspect. I often reconsider the balance between living my life and letting things unfold naturally versus actively pursuing what I want, especially in terms of relationships. There is value in allowing relationships to develop organically without excessive worry, but I also believe that a life lived alone is a life wasted. The notion of choosing between career and relationships is misleading. You can and should pursue both. Story 77. I am 24, almost 25, and I am a stock options trader. Not having a love life was not due to my focus on developing a career. I did not develop a love life because most people never felt that special to me. I am currently in a polyamorous relationship, but before this, I was single in non-serious relationships for most of my life. Story 78. I didn't get married until I was in my late 30s. My first child was born the week before I turned 38. I had my third and final child at 45. There are advantages and disadvantages to this situation. The dating pool will be different if you do not marry young. Some of the desirable partners will already be taken. You might consider marrying someone significantly younger who desires stability, but you may not feel a connection with them. You might also meet a widow, divorcee, or someone with children from a previous relationship. Alternatively, you could find another career-oriented individual who does not want to take on the responsibilities of parenting, which means you will have to. Are you comfortable with that? You will likely have more financial resources to raise a child and a family if you have a good career. Services such as meal delivery and lawn care can help free up time and reduce time-consuming tasks. In my experience, senior roles at larger companies do not always allow or expect fathers to take parental leave. They are more accommodating for junior employees, but with senior positions, there is an expectation to remain engaged due to your perceived importance. Travel is also common in senior leadership roles, which can complicate parenting. It is crucial to prioritize your health and stay active if you intend to have children later in life. Children need a father who can engage with them. You must be physically capable of carrying and playing with them. Expect to lift and carry a 25 to 30-pound child when they want to interact with their environment. Sleep deprivation can be particularly challenging in the first 3 to 6 months with a newborn, especially as you age. Maintaining good health can help, but it becomes more difficult as we grow older. Be cautious of financially motivated partners. You have more to lose in the event of a divorce, so consider a prenuptial agreement even if divorce seems unlikely. If your partner objects, it is a significant warning sign. I entered my marriage with all the assets and left with half after filing for divorce. Starting over financially at 45 and older is difficult. You may miss out on certain experiences due to time constraints. Your grandchildren may not have the opportunity to know you well. Your children might not connect with your parents as deeply as they could. Additionally, your parents may not be able to assist with childcare. You may also miss the experience of having a family starter home. You will likely be more emotionally mature than you were in your early 20s. Brain development continues until about the age of 25, and you may statistically be less likely to get divorced. At this stage, you can afford to be selective, and you should be. Also, 27 is not too old to settle down. I observed 2 waves of marriages among my friends. The first group married right out of undergraduate or graduate school, while the second group settled down in their early to mid-30s after establishing their careers. In urban areas, the latter is more common. Lastly, it is important to note that fertility issues are much more common for individuals in their late 30s and 40s than they may wish to admit, especially if they lead a high-stress or unhealthy lifestyle. I know several friends who married in their late 30s and ended up adopting due to difficulties in conceiving. Story 79. Always be ready to move abroad. I thought the Central Intelligence Agency was not allowed to discuss their jobs on Reddit. Story 80. I'm sorry, can you speak louder? I cannot hear you in my Lamborghini, surrounded by beautiful women and stacks of cash. Story 81. Just be patient. Just because people think they have met the love of their life now does not mean they will see that person in the same light in 5, 10, 25, or 30 years. The same goes for the other person. People change. Focus on building the best life for yourself, and keep your heart open for anyone the universe puts in front of you. Life is a race, but we are all competing against ourselves. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.